Great way to start. I'm here to help you guys as much as you need. I am here to make sure that you're able to get through the content, get through the material, understand the content and material, make sure that the assessments make sense to you, and to support you as much as you need. So media studies, one that you guys all have to do is basically an introductory module, that is focused on basically giving you the background to media studies, where we were in the past with our media, where we are in the present, the different theories, and then as well as looking at media in context with our everyday lives. It's been 3 years. Is that Sergio by some chance? Because that's not Doug. And the whole point is that I'm here to just help you guys get through the content and not feel overwhelmed or I don't know, out of your depth or whatever, because it is actually really applicable content. You stalked him on Facebook. If I see him, I'll tell him that. But I won't give names, obviously. But the whole point is media is in our everyday lives. It is all around us all the time, from our social media to websites to newspapers, radio, TV. It's everywhere. And no matter what, we can't get away from the media. Even when we try to, when we have a detox and we say we're not looking at our phones for a week or whatever it may be, we invariably always end up coming back to what's going on in the media, because that's how we get our information, that's how we get our news. So it's so important to understand the media, because they are the ones sharing information with us on a global scale. So if we just ignore the media and just push it aside, it means that you actually are being quite blinkered in the way that you are receiving information, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, daily news website, wherever it may be. It's that the more we understand it, the more we can choose to ignore certain elements of it, and we can also then choose to focus on the areas where we know we're going to get truthful, accurate information. So that's basically what media studies is all about. All right, I'm going to switch off my camera so that this doesn't eat everyone's data, because data is expensive in this country. So just also, I'm based in KZN, so I am very much a South African based tutor. I've experienced the floods, the riots, we've all been through COVID and all that. So, my point of reference for media might be different from you guys. I don't know whereabouts you guys are based, if anyone wants to share where they are, not specific addresses and stuff, obviously, but if you are in SA or overseas, I try to bring in, global media, but also we have to know also our local stuff, because obviously our your part and your POE speaks to South African context. Hey, we've got a real mix here: Joburg, Rustenburg, Nelspruit, Eastern Cape, and Durban. Awesome. So yeah, I'm a born and bred Durban girl. Studied at Rhodes, but came back here after that. And Dominique, my husband's family's from Nelspruit, so we're there often enough. And I studied in the Eastern Cape, so these are all places. In Joburg, yeah, was there about a month ago, so all places I know well. Rustenburg I have never been to, though. I'm from Cape Town. Okay. Northwest. Shame. Northwest is pretty, though. Okay. So I just want to lay out the module. Oh, awesome. Okay. I just want to outlay like what is expected of you guys, what is going on. Not pretty full of minds. That is true, but there are still some beautiful places, and also amazing starry skies and stuff. So my background is in photojournalism, hence why I'm lecturing this module. I studied photojournalism and media studies up to honors level. So, I always think of things in terms of the photographic element. So what is expected of you guys? So you have three separate elements where your marks come in. That is ICE, which you guys all know very well. So if you go look under more resources on VC Learn, you will see a list of a whole bunch of ICE tasks. So you'll see the ICE tasks folder, and there you'll find all the ICE activities for the semester. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ICE tasks, but you only have to complete 4 of them for ICE. I do recommend trying to do more than the 4, not only for the purpose of ICE, but these activities that have been set on VC Learn do help you with understanding the content. Because while you need to understand things in a theoretical perspective, application for media studies is really important. So it's all well and good being able to tell me what Afrocentrism is, or post-colonialism, or whatever it may be, but it's about how you apply it to the everyday world. So to TV series that we watch, or different social medias that you use. It's not only about the theory, it is about the application. So these different ICE tasks do help with that. So, if you've gone, oh, well, I've done all 4 for ICE, that's fine, that's great. Still work through the activities. You can still submit them and what have you, purely because they are going to help you with your studying. And I understand time is working against all of us on a daily basis. And I'm studying myself distance, so I completely understand how hard it is having a job and studying and life in general. But those little tasks or activities do make a difference. All right, so that counts 10%. Then 30% is your part, all right, which is, I just realized I don't have the pacer open. I'll tell you the due date, and I'll speak to all that. Oh, let me just actually speak to that now. The due date for ICE is the 15th of May. All right. So as long as it's in by 15th of May. So as long as it's in by midnight on the 15th of May, I'll mark everything on the 16th. So I sit down in the evening and just go, and I go through all the ICE tasks for all my modules and mark them all. So yes, Dominique, you can choose which ICE tasks you want to do, and how it works is your ICE gets marked on 2 principles: on submission and on quality. So it's basically 0 for not submitting, 1 for submitting, and then the other one is 0 or 100. So it just means that if you've done the ICE task and it's decent, not that you've put a 3-word sentence, you get your ICE marks. So it's not about which are the highest, it's just about 4 that are completed. Yeah, so I have one final ICE task date because, again, I know life happens. I don't close any of my ICE tasks. I don't set end dates or anything. I just personally, on the day after I've said ICE tasks, go and mark them all. So because you're all working at your own pace, some of you have worked through learning unit 1, some of you might be on learning unit 2 or 3, so it's not up to me to decide the set date of when those will be. Yeah, I just go by what I know as a student I would prefer, because life happens, and especially because you guys are doing distance. You already have enough pressure with your actual assignment and summative due dates, so that's the way that I can make things a little easier for you. All right. So the next thing is, like I said, your part, which is due. I was just pulling up the what's it? PAS. Sorry, that is the word I was thinking of. There we go. Just to get the due date up, because I lecture journalism, media studies, and NCTE this semester. So I just like to double check as I go through it. So it's due 4th of April. Okay. Hold on. Is mine showing a different date? Am I looking in the wrong month? Wrong folder? Let me just double check. No, I am in the right one. Yeah, mine also says 4th. So, no, it's okay. Okay, let me just double check that because, all right, I will confirm that with you guys after our lecture tonight. Just checking that the one that I've got in the folder is the most up-to-date one. I know the Journ one is the most up-to-date. So let me just check. No, we are still running on version 1, and I've got 4th of April. Okay. Yeah, okay. No, there isn't a version 2 yet. There's version 2 for third year, but not for second years. Okay. Like I said, because I teach the multiple modules, I just like to double check and make sure I'm on track with that. So on the 29th of April, so why have I got 29th of April? It was meant to be 29th of March. In our next collab, I will go through the assignment. I will correct that on the pacer. I'm not quite sure why it says April there. But we will go, that'll be our NSS, on our National Support Session, and I will go through the full assignment with you guys on the 29th. Okay. I know it is close to the submission date, but it isn't a difficult assignment. And obviously, I need to make sure you guys understand the content first today before moving on to working through the assignment with you guys. So your assignment or your part counts 30%, all right? And that is a small portion of the portfolio. So if you have a look in our folder, you will see, why are you not scrolling? In your folder, in your OneDrive for me, there will be the part and the POE, and you will have access to all the files there. Oh, Dominique, you are correct. Sorry, it's 30% with the ice and the part. Sorry, you're correct. Your POE counts 70%. I was not mathing well right there. Sorry, I was thinking the two combined come to 30. No, you have it right. So it is 20%. That is correct. All right, so it's 20%, and then your final POE, that comes to 70%, and that obviously makes our full 100. So the part is literally that. It's a part of the POE. It means that you have the opportunity to do some resubmission from after you have got your feedback and what have you. And what is important with the part is not to see it as a draft, but obviously because 20% is a decent amount of content. Oh, they haven't actually released. I'm going to query with that tomorrow, guys. They haven't actually released the part and the POE. I thought maybe I had made a mistake, but they haven't actually released them. So I will clarify that with Kat. Well, I'll message them, I'll email them tonight, and they'll clarify with me in the morning, just to see what's going on, because they can't expect you to work on it if you don't actually physically have it. But how it worked last year, which I'm assuming will be the same this semester, is the part is question 1 of the portfolio, which you then submit. It gets marked, you get it back, you get to then edit that and resubmit it for your final POE, which is quite a nice system. I just looked now in the folder under student material, and it is not there. It's only the MO currently in the student material folder. So unfortunately, they're not there yet. They should have released it by now, but I'll follow up with that. It might just be that they are releasing it this week. All right, so we don't stress about these things because as we go through with it, we take things as they come. All right. And there's still a good 3 weeks, so we've still got time. But I will make sure that by the end of this week, it is up and available to you guys. I will make sure that they are on that. All right. All right. So, any other general questions about media studies before I get into asking you guys some stuff about learning unit one? Oh, really? Okay. Can I ask guys? Because I'm in the I'm in my our tertiary folder and it's not showing at all. So could I ask if one of you could share it on the WhatsApp group so that I have access to it? I think I've just found it now. I see what they've done. Okay, www2. All right. So they had split the modules, the folders wrong. Okay, I see it there. All right, I'll add them to the folder right now. Then we have access to, well, so that everyone has access to them. I know you guys have already accessed them yourself, but I like to put everything into that OneDrive, which you guys have the link to in the WhatsApp chat as well as on VC Learn, because I just like having that backup system because we know VC Learn goes down sometimes. And so for me, I find the OneDrive is super useful because it means no matter what is happening, you guys have access to all my stuff. And in there you will see slides, you will see any important documents, and then all the recordings will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, which again in the WhatsApp chat and as well as on VC Learn, you have the link to the YouTube channel. So you just look out for MEST, look for the date, and then that'll be the collab from that date. All right. And if you guys are battling to find something, whatever, please, guys, just use the WhatsApp group. Just know that I am lecturing during the day. I lecture 6 hours a day, 8 till 3. So if I reply to you with quite a short reply, please know it's not me being short or terse or rude. It is very much the fact that I know that everyone is working when they have time. And with that, I try to respond as quickly as possible because if that is the only break you have in which to study, it's a bit mean of me to say, well, you need to wait until I have time. So I reply as quickly as possible so that you get the info and can carry on studying. In the evenings, you'll notice my messages are longer. But yeah, so that is the reason why my messages are short and sweet to make sure you get the info quickly. It's a pleasure, Cameron. I do try to be as on the ball as possible. You know, we're all juggling, we're juggling glass and rubber balls. Sometimes a rubber one has to bounce so that the glass ones don't. So I know that, this is, you guys don't have that, campus life to, ground you and stuff. So I try and help as much as I can on my side. All right. So if you're working through stuff, you're battling through things, if it's late at night, I will probably only reply the next day purely because I've probably fallen asleep. So if I'm alive and awake, I will reply. Okay. But being lecturing during the day and then parenting in the afternoon, by sometimes 8, 9 o'clock at night, I have fallen asleep in front of my laptop when I'm working. So just, yeah, that's me. My life is made up of my daughter, my husband, my chickens and ducks, dogs, cats, bearded dragons. So I live in the suburbs. I don't live on a farm. But I am a little bit crazy, but I think we all have to be to do BA. I think we all have to have a little bit of, difference and flair to make it in this world. So that is my little story of who I am. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this module with me. taps me because my head is hanging over my lap. Yeah, exactly. My husband often, I wake up because he's lifting my laptop off my lap and going, can you just go to bed now? So that's me. All right. So the first question to ask you guys, have any of you been able to work through Learning Unit 1 at least? And guys, the one thing I do say more than anything, honest answers are important. So if you haven't worked through stuff, just be honest. We're meant to be doing Learning Unit 1 and 2 today. We'll see how we go. Hoping to get done soon though. Had no time. I totally get that. All right. So I'm going to adjust slightly then, just because of time, and if you guys haven't even got through Learning Unit 1, it's crazy for me to think that you've got through Learning Unit 2 as well. And what we're going to do is then just focus on Learning Unit 1 today. And then so our part instructions, I'm just looking, is, okay, so it's question 1 and question 2, which is the study, communicate a message, medium, and audience. Okay, so it is the same. Yeah, don't worry, I totally understand. I only got my books for studying Monday. It's Wednesday, yes. So my books arrived late as well. So I'm studying a PGCE, so I totally get it. So yeah, sadly not 5 modules. So wow, yeah, Anita, that's a lot of work. I get that. All right, so let's get through Learning Unit 1 at least. Just let me briefly talk about Learning Unit 1 today. Then in our next collab, when we're doing the assignment as well, I'll then also check with you guys on Learning Unit 2. So it just means that we'll share that NSS time a little bit. We might run 10 minutes over or something if needs be, but it just means that I know that everything is then covered. But I don't want to push and rush you through Learning Unit 1 and 2 when you, like you say, it is, you do have a little bit of paralysis when you feel like things haven't quite got started because you've had that delay. So I totally understand that. So what the focus of Learning Unit 1 is basically understanding our past. All right, that's awesome. Good luck, Karen. That is, yeah. I know it's hard when we start these things so late at night. So when you are looking at Learning Unit 1, I don't want you guys to focus about the intricacies of exact dates and exact like time stretches and periods, because if you do that, it's going to get very overwhelming. And it's not saying that those things don't matter, because obviously they do. But what you're needing to focus on is more about understanding the media environment during the apartheid era. And during the apartheid era, we know that we were living in a time where censorship, where oppression, where a lack of freedom of speech was prevalent. And when you're working through the notes or the content, just try and look at the bigger picture of understanding the media during the apartheid era. Because when you actually look at your parts and what is expected of you, is you actually only focusing on the different commissions which came about in 48, 81, and 91. So those are the things you need to really focus on and knowing the details, because you are going to choose one of these commissions to write on. And understanding these commissions is about understanding the media landscape during the apartheid era. So it was things such as that your media were obviously strongholded by the government, that they were only allowed to report on information that the government deemed of public interest. If the government didn't want information to go out to the public, they would actually work in the newspapers themselves, and stories would be written, go to the government officials, and then they would redact information. And I don't know if you guys know what that means, but basically they would get their stories back with information blacked out. So basically they'd take a permanent marker and block out what wasn't allowed to be reported on. So they would say they wouldn't want that statement or that bit of information going out or this being released. And basically they would censor the media. So it meant every bit of information going out was controlled in some way, shape, or form. Hey, awesome. Okay. So for Karen, you are a step ahead. Well done. Okay. So, and if you've done Journ 1, I don't know if with you guys where you are in your studies, the first learning unit of Journ 1 and the first learning unit of media studies are very, very similar. So you are able to have that support of the two different sections. Oh, awesome. Okay. So yeah, if you're doing it in the one or the other, you are coming up with the same info pretty much. Okay. So with the apartheid era, what we need to think about is how they oppressed and how they actually silenced the media. So it was through fear. So I'm just trying to pull up a slide for you guys while I'm busy talking. So when you were working within the media, you could either be blacklisted if you reported information that the government deemed not fit for publication. You could be arrested, you could be blacklisted, you could be exiled, you could be sent to prison, and you could even be killed. So it was a time period where it was scary, it was nerve-wracking, and it was very much an era where, people were working on surviving. South Africa is going to sound hectic. Yeah, exactly. So it's that this time period was very much about just journalists getting through and trying not to rock the boat. So, and as terrible as that sounds, like a lot of people say, well, why didn't people stand up? Why didn't they speak out against the atrocities of the World War, sorry, I was busy going through the slides and it said post-World War II. Why didn't people speak out and all that? But it's people still had families, they still had food to put on the table, they still had all those things. And for some people, they were brainwashed to believe this is the right thing. And yes, Karen, other people were terrified. So when we are thinking about this media landscape, for people to actually fight against the apartheid era, they had to know what they were doing was for the greater good, but at the same time, they knew that they were doing it with the possibility of it ending up being really bad for them. So what I spoke about in my last Journ lecture was the Bang Bang Club, and they were a group of 4 journalists that worked during the apartheid era to try and actually show the world and South Africa what was going on. But because they worked for mainstream publications, they knew that they couldn't release a lot of the stuff here, so they sent it overseas to try create awareness overseas, so that it was through our media capturing the events that were going on, capturing the atrocities of the apartheid era, and sending those photos overseas that made people stand up and go, we need to stop this, we need to speak out against this. Yes, Karen, they did know they were risking their lives, and it is hard for moms with kids, dads. I mean, my husband, until my daughter was born, my husband was a photographic, he was a photographer for City Press, The Witness, a whole bunch of other publications. And he chose to leave because he was getting death threats and he was getting threatened, with lawsuits and seeing terrible things. And that is in a time where our, journalistic era was more stable. So I would hate to know what it was like to work during the apartheid era. I mean, some of my lecturers at Rhodes were sent to prison and all that kind of thing. So, they would tell us their stories. And it's, these stories were their real lives. And for us, we see it as, bygone era. So if the journalism era was all about oppression and all about control, what do you think was done to break that control, to help the media industry break free from government? What do you think they did to kind of change this? So just from your guys' perspective, what do you think they had to do? Okay, so yeah. So basically what happened was we got to this point where the media, especially what we call the black and alternative press, they couldn't continue anymore. So the people of color within South Africa were tired of every bit of information um, coming from a white perspective. So that's why we had publications such as Drum Magazine coming to the forefront. Um, yes, Dominique, so it was that the black and the alternative press were the media that kind of said, we know that we're putting our lives in danger. We know that this is speaking out against government, but we can't go on anymore. The press could not continue being silenced and feeling like they could no longer be themselves. So that's why publications such as Drum Magazine are so important, because they were the ones that for once gave the black population a voice. It was black journalists, black run publication writing stories for the black people of South Africa. And what started as, a magazine for the natives, I say that with air quotes as if you guys can see me, but they are there. I'm saying that with sarcasm. Please know it's not my sentiment at all, but it's very much about control and making sure that they didn't have their own voice. But Drum was where they actually could have their own voice. And what happened was the those working for Drum started using it as an anti-apartheid publication and spoke out against what was happening. And it wasn't that it was only those of color that were fighting out against apartheid. The alternative press also were there fighting, and it was these two types of press that actually got through and started to show the people of South Africa that actually what you've been reading about for the last 40 odd years or however long it was is not actually the truth, that it did not reflect what was actually happening within South Africa. And it's so important that we had this alternative press and this black press, because they were the ones that actually helped break down the apartheid regime. And this is within our own country and internationally, because what they were doing was they were showing the world what was going on, showing us what was going on. And it meant that people that thought that apartheid was normal and okay, they started to go, what are we doing? Why are we grouping people based on the color of their skin? And it actually gave people a bit more of a voice. And what started happening was the apartheid law started to relax, because they can only arrest so many people. They can only fight against so many protests and what have you. So it was that people of all races, of all ages, were starting to come together and speak out against apartheid, which is a super important thing. And obviously, it's not that the media ended apartheid, but they just started to make the atrocities more visible. So they had a big part to play in pushing for the end of apartheid. So, Karen, how the international pressure came was by them actually finding out what was actually happening. So they were able to see photographs of what was going on in South Africa. So the civil unrest with IFP versus ANC, they could see the living conditions of people of color versus the white population. So what happened was the international government for so long thought that it wasn't that bad. But when they started seeing photographs and seeing the actual evidence from journalists and photographers and what have you working within the press, that's when they started going, oh, this is really not okay. So if we did not document what happened during apartheid, we wouldn't be able to have fought against it. So there's a big discussion around the ethics around photographing, for example, necklacing and people being murdered and the atrocities that were happening during the apartheid era. It's that whole thing of when does a journalist put down the camera or put down the notepad and get involved? Or do they carry on documenting it because it means that awareness can be created? It's that where is that line? And for a lot of people during the apartheid era, they knew that they couldn't get involved. They couldn't fight physically with their hands or stand up against the government. But they could stand up against the government by photographing what was happening or writing stories about what was really happening and sending those overseas. And then the international pressure came and was so significant. So the biggest thing of why we ended apartheid was because of the pressure through sanctions. So those sanctions are what actually got the South African government to go, all right, we're starting to get very isolated. We're not going to have access to a lot of stuff. So we have to start lessening these laws. And the thing is, not all laws obviously pertain to the media, but a lot of the laws did. So when you're thinking about laws and that, things like the Bantu Education Act, all those kind of things don't play a part, but there are other laws with regards to what could be published. Like, for example, you could not publish the names of anyone that was within the resistance. So no one of the ANC, IFP, or anything. You couldn't publish their names. You couldn't publish stories on these people. So it was very limited. Um, yeah, exactly. We didn't have access, and that's why a lot of people go, "Oh, why are you only experiencing certain brands and that now?" And it's because we've always been on the back foot because they didn't want international investment. But then we are seeing that happening a bit now with our economic status and what have you, with international brands leaving the country. So it's not like, but I know that's not obviously a race-based thing and apartheid, it's just what's happened post-COVID. But we see some similarities coming up. And what we have to do above all else is make sure that what we are reading and what we're accessing and that is legitimate news and media. So again, honest answer, please. How many of you read the news or use social media to gather information or news? How many of you actually kind of know what's going on around you to a certain extent? So, do you guys follow some news? Awesome, Dominique. New York Times, Daily Maverick, good. Sasha, to a certain extent. Cameron, yes. Okay, cool. So, another good publication to get information from is the Conversation essay. All right. And the reason why I say it's a publication, yeah. So listen, I understand that listening to the news all the time is very depressing. It is overwhelming, and if you're a person that deals with anxiety or depression or any of those things, the media makes it worse. All right. I totally get it. I got very burnt out and overwhelmed during COVID and everything because I teach media subjects and I'm meant to know what's going on around, but it gets very overwhelming. Um, but even if you just, on the odd occasion, find out what's going on, I learned to follow the news from Kosk. Yeah, I completely understand that. The thing is that even like when it might not seem as news, but like I know the night after the Oscars, I go and look at who, what did everyone wear, when a celebrity has died, all that kind of stuff. That all counts towards news and media. Um, oh, really? I didn't see that. I must go have a look about that going ahead. Oh, great. Okay. Um, so the whole idea is that there is so much information. There is news coming at us 24/7, and that's the thing, is that media of the past, we would have newspapers, radio, TV, and you would get your newspaper in the morning, in some places newspaper in the evening. You would listen to the evening broadcast and you'd listen to the radio. So it meant we had big downtimes where we wouldn't be bombarded with information. But now we literally are getting information 24/7, and that's why it's so overwhelming. So it's understandable that we battle with it. So the whole idea is that don't let yourself get overwhelmed, and saying, so know what's going on to some extent, but don't sit and read the media for, hours on end, because it becomes a rabbit hole and you just can't get out. But what the one thing is that I want you to take about media today is that if you look at our South African media, the only reason we know about Zuma and Nkandla is because we have freedom of the media now. The only reason we know about the, the Zuma's trial and everything that's going on is because we have freedom of the press. The only reason we know about Ramaphosa's money being stolen from his home is because we have freedom of the press. So it's that what we have today is because the journalists of the past did fight. And I know it sounds so cheesy, we've got to be grateful for what they did and, all that jazz. But in this instance, it is actually true, because the media hold themselves accountable through regulatory boards. We have external regulatory boards that hold the media accountable. The media is not going to let it get to the point where that it is ever censored again, because the moment we have media censorship, we become a communist country. We become having a dictatorship. The moment we have any form of censorship from government, it means we are no longer living in a democratic environment. And we don't want to become Russia or North Korea or China or any of those countries. We want our freedom. And journalists fought way too hard, and too many gave up their lives, or were exiled or what have you, for us to go back to that. So while we might have fake news, we might have really poor journalism, while we might have all sorts of things, we still do have some good publications. So like the Conversation Essay, they are one of the few publications left that actually edit their work. So you might read the Daily News, the Mercury, Cape Argus, all of those, and you'll notice spelling errors, grammatical errors, and all that, and everyone gets frustrated. It's because the sub-editors have been let go because they don't have the money to keep them anymore. So they're expecting journalists to edit their own work, and we know when we edit our own work, we still make mistakes. But publications such as the Conversation Essay, Daily Maverick, and all that, they still have sub-editors. They still have people reading each other's work. So that is why I say there are certain publications that are reliable, that we know are still trying to produce well-written journalism. So when you are looking at Learning Unit 1, just look at the context, look at the environment, and know that it, like I said, it's about the bigger picture, about the journalism industry, what it was then to what it is now. And then when we move forward with our Learning Unit 2 and so on, we'll look at the ethics, the theories, and the journalistic environment, and a couple of theorists and stuff to know, basically to give you guys a crash course on the media. And I can tell you, after doing media studies, you will look at the media differently. You become very critical of it, and not just because you're so tired of the fake news and the drama and whatever, but you actually get critical of it in terms of going, that's not how it should be because you guys have studied it. All right. Any questions? We'll speak more in following lectures, but any questions on anything as a whole for media studies? And I promise for those, so like Karen, that are doing media and journalism, this is the only overlap that you'll have. Okay.